So in C, the only change is we're striking another and putting a in its place.
Right? And then striking treasurer finance firm.
Oh. Okay.
And then going up to page 7, under safekeeping and custody, in the 1, 2, 3, 4th line, put a period after city. There's the phrase, or its nominee is established by the custodian. We're not gonna have nominees, just because we're gonna hold them all in our name, right, Peter?
Yeah.
So we don't need that. So just put a period after city and strike the rest of that sentence. And another cleanup in the next paragraph, 3 lines from the bottom. This is what the custodian does. And it says, the line begins monthly, comma, that reconcile should strike the city's internal records and instead reconcile to the reports of the investment advisor. Leave that in there, but strike the city's internal records. They couldn't do that. Got it?
Oh, yes.
Great. And last change under reporting, the treasurer finance shall strike the word report and just say provide. So the treasurer financial shall provide to the finance committee and insert and city council. And that's it. You got that? Does anyone else have any comments on this last version of the IPS?
And so we're sticking with the annual review?
Yes, annual review.
Peter, you're comfortable with that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
He asked for it because it's a GFOA standard.
So with that, I will move to adopt ordinance 2025-13.
It's just on third reading.
It's not
This is-
four, three.
Actually, the fourth.
It should indicate on the agenda.
Oh, I didn't know if we already had third reading.
Once you have third reading,
It's
it's on
always
third,
third reading?
yes.
Okay,
There is no
good to know. This is third reading.
They don't need a motion.
Okay, Mr. Lemay and
I will second it.
Oh, you can second, so you vote.
All right. With that, I want to thank Mr. Lemay for his hard work on this. Peter, Mr. Reckentor, for all of your very hard work on this, and for our investment advisors. It was a good team putting this thing together. Mr. Gentili, good comments that you provided. Roll call, please.
Ms. Atrach?
Yes.
Ms. Wellman?
Yes.
Ms. Godin? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong? Yes.
Okay.
Peter, when you have your draft finished, do you want to run it by me just to make sure we got everything? Or, and, you know, and Jim,
Or maybe,
Yeah.
if you want.
before we finalize it.
Should we say subject to the, we just include in the record, subject to the amendments to the ordinance we discussed tonight?
You can include that in the motion, yes.
Okay.
Next, we have a discussion on forming an investment advisory committee.
Yeah, let me take that, because Tony and I, again, had several discussions on this, and I had previously expressed quite a bit of concern about this, because I think I misunderstood Tony's intent on this. It was my belief that he envisioned the committee that would meet frequently, and it sounded to me like it would be very intrusive on our investment advisors and on Peter's time, and might become kind of a bureaucracy all to itself. Tony explained to me as an entirely different concept from what I thought I understood. His concept is to have it meet once a year, basically as a committee to review the performance of our investment advisors. And if need be, at some point, help us with a search for a new investment advisor, or just the occasional RFP. It's always been my practice when I was a fiduciary on a pension fund, and also more recently on some other investment committees, about every 5 years, we ran a process. Often enough, that process retained the very same people, but it was a process to look who's else out there and what are they offering? Are we getting the best value still? And unless you do that once in a while, you'll never really know. So I think that's good governance, good hygiene, good practice. So the role of this committee, as I understand, as Tony's proposed, is very narrow. So once a year, we have a budget meeting. Once a year, we'll have a financial performance
Investment advisory.
investment advisory. A couple caveats I had on that, that as Tony described it, I think if we, it's another opportunity for some of our citizens to contribute to city government, which I think is a great thing. But it would be my preference that the citizens who participate are actively working as an investment advisor or investment professional, in other words, they're in the market every day. They're not, on the investment committees I sit on now, I'm the old guy because I'm not in the market every day, but most of my other investment committee members on the two nonprofits are working full-time in a brokerage firm or as an investment advisor or investment manager. So they're actually in the market, so they have real-time advice.
Jim, I want to
Let
point out.
me just finish it. So it might be my preference for the citizens that we would enlist to do this once a year, is that people who are in the market and have a view on bond prices, have a view on interest rates, and more importantly, have a view and have the ability to ask hard questions to Fifth Third. Why did you buy these bonds? Why didn't you buy these bonds? What was your thinking on this? And just evaluate, based on their real market experience, how Fifth Third did in managing our investments over the past year. So I think if we get the right people, and with, as Jackie said, the wealth of knowledge in this community is huge. I think we could find investment professionals who would be willing to, once a year, come and help us with that and do that review. There might be other circumstances if our investment advisor went bankrupt or had a legal violation, we had to fire them, then we might have to use them again. But I think it's a very narrow role, but could be very beneficial if they're in the market and have that expertise to evaluate our investment advisors and how we did. I think, and we've got nearly 40 million in cash. It's a big amount of money.
Would their lack of, they may be very, I presume, I like the description of the type of person, but would their lack of familiarity or working in the municipal or public
I don't-
investment world?
We talked about this.
Negatively
I don't
impact
think so. I don't know who we're gonna get. Be my preference to tilt toward bond professionals, rather than, someone who does real estate or invest in Japanese yen
Or
derivatives.
just regular equities.
Yeah, so I hope we get a lot of applicants for this, and if we do, we have someone who's a bond professional. They would certainly know the short end of the curve as well as the long end, and we focus on the short end. Now that we've added corporate bonds, muni bonds, in addition to the agencies and treasuries, we're spreading our wings a little bit. So to me, that's even another reason to have someone who's a bond professional or bond experience in working with individual bonds, not just a mutual fund, but individual bonds, and understanding the trade-off between agencies and corporates. And what's the spread?
Once you see this trick,
Are you
carrying a
envisioning
bottle
this as
opener
a
in your
pure
pocket will
resident committee? Or would
No,
there
no.
be a council?
I think Tony's idea was 2 council members, the mayor, and 2 residents. Is that, do I got that
Three
right?
resident, up to 3 residents, that's not determined, and of course, people.
And
So-
does this tend to undercut our finance committee at all? Should should this be some sort of subset of the finance committee?
Well, Tony and I talked about that, and it was always my view that if it was gonna be a committee that met once a month, or, maybe once a quarter, or once, then I wanted to separate it completely. I wanted to combine it with finance completely. But my other caveat to Tony was, to the extent the council members on the finance committee are the individuals with finance experience, they should also serve, in my view, on this committee. So right now, we have, Tony has some experience, I do, Jackie does in the investment world. And I would think those same people, or a subset, would serve on it. There could become a day where we have no one on the committee, on the council, has any investment experience.
Right.
And then it'd be even more important that we have these outside residents help us evaluate how Fifth Third is performing. That's the key. Well, and in fact, on the investment committees, I used to serve on when I was working in my employer, and also the two investment committees I serve on now. The primary role is oversight of your advisor and having the occasional RFP where you have a bake-off to see if your advisor is still the right advisor. It's not so much, it's questioning the advisor. Like, why did you make this investment? Why did you allocate this versus that? But it's not to cherry pick their investments and say, well, you made a bad one there for that individual stock.
And that's what I'm concerned.
Yeah,
That's sort
and
of
that, Tony explained to me, I was misunderstanding, that was the
That's
issue.
not their role at all.
And Tony explained that's not what he's talking about, which got me to a comfort level that I think this could be real value add for once a year. Okay, these guys did a great job, or no, they missed this, this, and this. And if we get the right residents who are in the market professionals, they have the ability to really do that and do that in a productive, proactive way. And if it comes a point in time where we have no council members with investment experience, then they would be even more important to assessing the performance of our outside financial advisor.
Do we need any council members on this committee?
I think yes, just to be tied into between Peter and the mayor and at least one council member to make sure the governance is done well. I would want to have a clear statement about what their role is and is not. And make it clear what their role is so it doesn't become a bureaucracy. But with one meeting a year and a mission on evaluating the current investment portfolio and the performance of the investment funds, I think it'll be focused and narrow just on those two things. That's my understanding. I think that's how Tony says it.
That's how I designed it. And, I think this, I had asked Sheila to send out the committee's ordinance, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out, and this was, work that was done earlier, but, what you said about investment professionals pretty much covered. To be eligible to serve on a committee, this is Section 6 of the general provisions. A resident must have meaningful experience in the subject matter of the committee and not be serving on any other committee or hold office or position within the city. So we're already saying they have to have some expertise in the area. If we want to make it,
I might narrow that a little bit more. Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I think we need a license.
I would want to narrow that a little bit more because I want, for example, did you say licensure? Yeah, I would want the professional qualifications. So we can beef that up, but I guess I wanted to thematically talk about why I've come to the view that structured properly with the outside residents and staff from council members who hopefully have experience in investments. I think this would be not a bureaucracy that would be intrusive. It would be real value add to make sure we're getting great value from the investment advisor.
If I could ask, Peter, what's your reaction to that?
Devil's in the details, who's gonna write the legislation, so let's get the legislation written and then.
It's by motion.
Well, but the motion, I looked at that in a long time, Tony, because what I would prefer is we go back, rewrite the motion to reflect all these comments that I had and Tony's had and present it to council as a comprehensive motion, give it to Steve and just run it through a process. But after our discussion today, as my re-understanding of what we intended to do, I think this is, particularly given the size of our surplus at 40 million, it's something it deserves this level of scrutiny at least once a year.
Well, right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In your discussion of it, the qualification section for the general committees seems to work well for the other committees. You may want to, as you're describing what we're doing, in the section F, that would be the Investment Advisory Committee, you may want to say, notwithstanding the provision of 6, the qualifications of this committee shall be XYZ to incorporate the higher standard.
Right.
Leaving the existing standard.
Yeah. We have the flexibility to do that the way it's written, yeah.
And I have a motion that's pretty well written. I want to go through it again and I will show it to you and you can put in all of that nicely. So,
Okay.
And then we can hopefully do a little bit at the next council meeting.
All right, like Peter said, devil's in the details. We'll see what we have and we can Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving to Dr. Wong, who's requested that we put on the agenda a discussion of ADA access to City Hall. Dr. Wong, what is your discussion point?
So, I know we've spoken about it at several, council meetings in the past, and I know we're talking about maybe revamping, City Hall, the entrance here to allow ADA access through the front. And I was just wondering what our, status is on that, because last time we left it, I believe we were gonna put out an RFP for, bids to come and talk to us about how they would revamp the front of the City Hall to allow ADA access. I mean, I know firsthand, when I broke my leg and I thought there was ADA access at the front door and I was supposed to be non-weight bearing on my walker, it wasn't there. So I was surprised and I just didn't notice that it wasn't there. So I had to go sideways on my walker and try to hop up the stairs to get in, and I wasn't gonna go all the way back to the back to try to get in. So I think we should definitely look at this for every resident to be able to come in the front door to, council and to the City Hall.
Well, I absolutely agree
Make
that
a
every resident.
priority. And we've talked about it, you know, I think it, last time, maybe as early as March, or, it's been a long time, so.
Yeah, well, where it stalled was, you can't send out really an RFP, or as you characterize it, or a request for design until there's that process undertaken first as to what is the request, what are we asking of some designer, other than just shooting in the breeze saying, give us some ideas. Now,
ADA access to the
That's-
front door from the front. That's my request.
And the one caveat, because you know I agree with you very much, you know, is that I think it's so important to get it done. I don't think the elevator we currently have, while it may be ADA compliant for various reasons right now as kind of a legacy item, it doesn't provide dignity for people who have mobility issues, who are handicapped, whatever the situation is. And I just think we need to address it. If it's a smaller plan that gives us a really nice secondary entrance and a really nice, with parking that's close, I would favor that, just for the point of getting it done, because it seems like the plan gets so big that we never do it, and, you know, all these very grand ideas happen, which really include more expansion of office space and other things. And while that could be good, really, I think that this has gone on for a while, so I would be in favor of looking at either one, just so we can get it done. So that's just a side point, but I support what you're saying.
I do too. I think I wouldn't limit it to the front door though. I'd limit it to the building or extend it to the whole building, because there may be things that can be done somewhere near the elevator that could make that elevator a more dignified, ADA compliant use without, you know, blowing up the whole building or completely remodeling the building.
well, I guess my observation would be, we did have conversations, as we all remember, about larger renovations to this end of the City Hall building. And I don't think they've been deferred, it seems by council, but I don't want to just invest $500,000, 400,000, or whatever the number is, to create a standalone elevator shaft there, and then have, but now we're gonna renovate, and we have something that's not scalable and in the right place for any other type of renovation. If the question being, or the request being posed by council is there something that can be done on a much more modest scale to make the front of the building even if it's on an attractive but still temporary basis in the sense of it's not a forever build necessarily for the front of the building, yeah, I think that's, reasonable to go out and, ask some design professionals as to what can you do in that regard. That's a charge and that's something we can ask.
I support Kathy's request here, and it doesn't hurt to ask and to see what somebody might be able to do, somebody creative might be able to do without talking about a $2 million change to the building.
No, that we can go out and make it.
If it's $500,000 and it could get in the way, I agree with you. But if it's something that's reasonable, that, I don't know if we're ever gonna get back to doing the whole building. We have a pretty full house tonight, but we're accommodating them. So,
Yeah, I'm wondering, just an ADA only request to say, we need to fix this. I wanted a permanent project, it's a permanent fix. How would you do it? What would the cost be? I guess I'm less inclined about having new footprint. I'm kind of inclined to think maybe renovating internally here, and, I don't know, better use of this way a little bit, maybe if that was inexpensive. But I'm inclined to seek out just an ADA solution and just not formal, but just ideas and rough estimates to see, I put it here and it's this ballpark, I put it here and it's this ballpark. And I wouldn't be, I mean, you and I have had this discussion, but unless we can get parking spaces over here, the front access and having people walk from that parking lot to the front door, that's a big ask for a handicapped person on a walker, or those respiratory issues. I mean, my experience with the situation is closer to the door is better. That's what they want. They get out of the weather fast. If it's 2 spaces away, that's a better solution than that parking lot, walking down a sidewalk, across a busy street, people coming in and out, the sidewalk. It's a long pull for someone on a walker or who's otherwise disabled. So I'd really work for solutions to get close to the door. But I would like to see it, just the ADA only fix and just ballpark that. I don't know if our
Well,
architects we use.
That is, what council's talked about tonight is a much more specific and, that's a request that can be shaped and used.
and as you pointed out multiple times here, we are ADA compliant. We're
Yes.
looking for something that is ADA compliant, but better than what we have.
Inconvenient.
And convenient. Yeah, so, I mean, let's not say we're not ADA compliant.
No, let's not
No.
say that.
We shouldn't
I think-
say that. We shouldn't imply it.
One thing that
So-
is missing
But I
is,
think there's something that we can do that would meet some of the needs of our, Kathy, when she broke her leg, and anybody that's in a permanent disability.
One of the biggest things that is missing is the ability for anybody who uses that access to be self-reliant. And that in itself, like when we talk about dignity, we are taking people, they have to rely on somebody within this building to have them access this. That needs to be addressed in the project. Kathy, thank you for bringing this again to the forefront. It's something we have been talking about for way too long, and it is important. We've looked at other accessibilities within the city for different reasons. This is something that the access to City Hall is very important. I do think that perhaps where the parking is closest does make the most
Yeah.
sense. Although, of course, the front door is a preferred entrance. I think that, as we've all said, a reasonable entrance, wherever that may be, is where I'm supportive
Right.
of.
And
So
then maybe,
I don't know how soon we can get this moving, but it needs to get moving.
And then until then, maybe we could have better signage, but
Right.
people know, because, I mean, I totally had no clue that I couldn't get in the front door. And when I was there, I was hired, and I was like, I'm not going home. So,
but if people knew, you're right, it would be more accessible, they could park right next to it. So, it's good to weigh our options, because I think that could be a good option, you're right, if the people have to know it's there and have to feel comfortable.
And I think when we left it last time, I think Scott was talking about the annex building or like another extension here. And we just thought that that was a little bit too much of a spend at that time, and to focus on how we can update our audiovisual equipment here and allow more participation, so that we can not do a big step.
Well, that's something we can, that's a charge that we can work on addressing.
So City Hall renovation just tabled, does anyone else want to pursue that idea? Because I think it's a great idea.
I think that there are opportunities for that, but I think, again, we end up getting off track and really.
No, I get that, but I'm saying like, you know, we had it in the budget, it's in the budget last year too.
Mhm.
So this is the second year it's in the budget.
Yes.
You know, just like indefinitely deferred, is this something that we should pick up and run with? In addition, I'm not saying like to the exclusion of this more immediate idea, but like I get the impression like no one wants it, and that's fine. I would just like to know where we stand.
I don't think that anybody has said that they haven't wanted it. I think it's coming to a conclusion of what was going to be the best. I know that I've been supportive of it. Having folding chairs here for our residents to sit on, that there are things that we could update and do. I think it was the scale at which we wanted to do it. Was it a bump out? Were there extra areas? Were we reconfiguring downstairs? I mean, there's a lot of options there. And the conversation just never really.
Right, so how do we address that? Is it a conversation of 8 people, which goes nowhere every time we have it? Or is
I
it like
think
an
that's
ad
an
hoc?
obvious one, Jackie, that's fine.
Just as a stepping stone, to
Yeah.
that, I would like a non-footprint evaluation of, for example, can this room be extended that way rather than build new footprints and make it productive? Some kind of minimalist, first of all the electronics and communication clearly need to be updated.
Yeah.
That's a given, right? That's like 88. But I'm wondering if there's a evaluation, and Mayor, I don't know if this is specific enough, that this floor could be better utilized in a way.
We, just as a reminder, if we extend that way, we are eliminating Becky's office and going into Peter's office to push back that direction.
I don't know how many feet that involves and what.
Well, I think that another important thing to remember is like we are here 2 nights a month mostly, right? And there are people who work here all day, every day that need to be taken into consideration. So it's not just the monthly meetings where, yeah, it can be crowded and uncomfortable. That's one factor. It's also, you know, when was the last time this building was really updated?
And if you, just to remind council, the plan that the architect who did the deep dive, you know, it comprehended some needs that were evaluated through investigation with our building department, which is below us. This is not, the plan was not simply about a city council chamber in which also our ABR meets and other groups. This HOA, I can't understand about in this reps in the last couple of weeks. You know, but we have a full building department downstairs, and there are needs so far as the way that is situated and designed.
I know we years ago, the police station, we just redesigned that space. And when we had an architect, they found that there was really a lot of wasted space and the footprint didn't increase, but the utilization is much better. They completely reorganized it, and everyone loved it. So just as we think about this building before we put bricks and mortar, just a comprehensive view about optimizing what we've got before we sink some of the.
And I think you're right on target, Jim. I mean, I think we've even talked about it on at least one occasion previously. We talked about whether a space redesign would be appropriate, and it wouldn't be to rob people of their office space. It's something that happens all the time, and it's not decorating or anything like that, as I've heard referred to. It's actual looking at the space in a more practical way. And I think we have agreement that we've had an extensive conversation last meeting or the meeting prior about, our communication systems. So I think that is something, a box we've already checked and agreed on.
The police, I just raised the police example because that was a classic example of a lot of underutilized, misused space. And I don't know, Mayor, have we ever done that with this building like we did for the police station in terms of space utilization? How it could be optimized? I don't think we have.
I'm sorry, Chief.
Our job changed quite a bit over there. We weren't able to utilize the jail anymore. That was the whole basement.
Right.
Under the state standards, we couldn't safely
That
operate
got
on.
eaten up, right, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was eaten up. We used to have dispatch, so
Right.
we gained that space because we didn't have
Right,
dispatch anymore.
Right, no, good points.
And then, we had the city's exercise equipment all in our basement. And luckily, service had room for that, so we were able to turn that into, a locker room and stuff.
Mhm.
So we gained
Right,
that way.
Within the
just by
footprint, there was
change.
a lot of space.
It's really-
yeah,
That was open.
underutilized.
And it's
Yeah.
really well done.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah, and it was done by Paul Deutsch and by Lasky, to their credit. It really is a beautiful design. We have other police departments come through here to tour this redoing and repurposing of the space. All right, well,
Like Mayor and Sheila, what do you guys think? Do you need more? What do you think about this space redesign?
I'd say, I don't know what you're saying.
What do you think about looking at the space and redesigning? What do you think? Do you have an opinion?
I think it's going to be extraordinarily challenging to meet the needs of the staff who's here and make this space fully available to the public, not just for council, but for the other uses that it's put to. Listen, I am not a design, I'm a lawyer. I am not a design professional, architect or interior. So I need, that's my gut reaction to it. I think it's very challenging because we've talked to architects in the past, but I
Could we
can pose a
say
question.
improve the ADA access, whichever way they think, and then allow improved seating for the community, a little bit more space? I mean, I think that would be beneficial. I'd like to see a little redesign. I just don't know how much.
We'll see. I'll
Yeah.
talk, we'll reach out to not one, but more than one designer to ask if that's what the council's charge is. And I think the chief's point is well taken. There was suddenly a significant amount of square footage that was sitting empty and unutilized on that end that can be taken advantage of. That's an enormous difference with what is being discussed here.
Although there are things in this building that, for example, we have a massive desk in the clerk's office that is sort of from another era. What?
Yeah.
It's sort of from another era.
That's the one example, I think. That-
You know,
Yeah.
the thing that we do have is a second floor to this building, or a third floor, whichever, however you describe it. And,
Could that be used as offices?
yeah, that can be redesigned for other purposes. It creates other, choices that have to be made. Any design process, it's choices that have to be made. Right now, it's largely utilized for storage. So we've stripped down over the years the safekeeping of records that we have to keep for some period of time. It pretty much fills up upstairs. We have to make other arrangements for storage. But yeah, there's upstairs to this building that is, not accessible. The elevator stops here. It doesn't go up to the next floor.
That's
So
really
there-
evaluated.
it doesn't have air conditioning up there now. That would have to be, something that, again, a designer has to deal with. I'm not pretending that I can do that.
But putting boxes offsite is pretty cheap.
That's cheap.
And so it's in the footprint. It's where, would be part, I think that's a great idea to, part of this space utilization, include that. Because that's a lot of space up there. It's full of boxes now, basically.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Well, who's never sneezing, God bless you.
Next, we'll move on to a conversation on an update on Sterling Lakes Drive, particularly we're talking about the intersection of Sterling Lakes Drive and New Brainerd Road. I see there are a lot of people here from the Sterling Lakes community. Welcome.
Could you please acknowledge us, Sterling Lakes folks, raise your hands.
Welcome, folks. Good to have you with us.
The reason this is on the agenda particularly is, it came to my attention, that there had been a renewed discussion of this on social media among, members of that community, maybe internally, apparently, just so, council and the record is clear. This is, not a new subject to us. It's a subject that, both the administration and council and committees have dealt with for many, many years. We have, sometimes, we have to revisit it again. I think it's appropriate that it gets revisited from time to time. We have done at least 5 separate traffic studies, I believe, since I came into office in 2012 at this intersection. We have met with and engaged with the Sterling Lakes community a number of times over those years, meeting with whatever its then board might have been. There are new board members now. They may not be completely familiar with the breadth or the conversations that occurred over the last 14 years, at least since I've been in office. So I want to make sure that the council's aware. I want to make sure the community's aware. Apparently there was some sort of, you had your HOA meeting here, someone told me, within the last couple of weeks.
Sub-association. We had our sub-association.
A sub-association.
Right.
All right, and that some council members were invited, which is fine. I wasn't aware, so I would have been happy to be there this year. To bring council up to speed as to this, earlier in this year, our engineer, Mr. Sheedy, and I met with the board, the master board, I don't know what you call it, the overseeing board of Sterling Lakes, on this issue. As a result of that, the city undertook its most recent evaluation of the intersection. And that was published and shared back to the community, to the board. I don't know if the board shared it with the residents in the community or not. Some of you may have it, some may not. I don't know. But we felt it appropriate. We weren't just sending it out to a whole community because we were dealing with the board. We thought that was the appropriate channel for us to receive. And I felt we were still engaged in a conversation with the board about the intersection. I've shared that report now with the council since we're going to have this conversation tonight. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it. The upshot that is that Mr. Sheehy did this in coordination with our police department. We do not have a particular speed issue on Sterling Lakes Drive. Of course, there are people who will speed from time to time, just like on any street.
Do you mean on New Brainerd?
A New Brainerd, I'm sorry, I misspoke. A New Brainerd, and thank you, Tom. We were able to evaluate with the engineer the back and forth of the intersecting streets from the point of Sterling Lakes and the traffic, the 95% of the traffic that proceeds up and down New Brainerd itself. That evaluation didn't change a lot of things. I'm going to turn to Mr. Sheedy and let him, synopsize that. Oh, he's smiling. He loves it when I do that.
Yeah, that's the best. A lot of technical stuff, obviously, it's very technical stuff. I think people always kind of want to get to the bottom line, so I'll skip a lot of stuff and get to the bottom line. We looked at a few different alternatives. One is to keep things essentially the way they are. I think Sterling Lakes HOA did a nice job of keeping the trees and brush trimmed back to make sure that there's good visibility there, which was a problem at one point. The alternatives are, can we go with a 4-way stop? Right now it's a 2-way stop, essentially. The 2 side streets exiting on New Brainerd have to stop New Brainerd has through traffic and it has the left turn lanes. To change that over to a four-way stop would definitely increase accidents at that intersection. Very, very low accident count at that intersection right now. There's really only one accident that we had, and that's somebody pulling out of North Point Circle, which has great visibility, and they ran into somebody probably distracted or whatever, but that's the only accident we've had really at that location in the past 5 years. And so by adding a four-way stop, you're absolutely going to increase, you know, distracted drivers, rear end, people having to stop, not paying attention, all that kind of stuff, because you're making everybody stop at that location, including the people that live there. You know, they're yes, they would have a four-way stop and maybe feel confident about pulling up, but also be worried that somebody rolls through a stop sign. So we don't really recommend the four-way stop because it would be an increase in accidents, and is also really not warranted based on the traffic volumes. We looked at putting a signal in there, and really you get the same thing. The worry about the signal is that you could really have a pretty serious accident. Typically, signals, people run a red light, they roll through it, you know, really fast sometimes. It's different than somebody slowing down at the stop sign and not having to stop. You could have issues with weather, all those things add to possible accidents. So the signal is, and it's very close to another state. We would not deliver this application, and it would not get a state warrant. It's really not an option. And that you wouldn't get a state, we wouldn't be able to warrant the signal as being warranted.
Just so you know, so the audience knows, in case you're unfamiliar with the term. When Don says it's not warranted, he's not saying it colloquially, oh, it's not warranted. Warrant is a term of art that the state of Ohio uses that phrase to describe when under a whole formula does an intersection merit traffic control devices, be it stop signs, traffic lights. And so when he says it's not warranted, he's referring to the state regulations as to when you can put in traffic lights and stop signs.
And we ran, and we got current data, and there was, you know, really good suggestion, at least from Sterling Lake residents, don't do a traffic count, you know, in late February or early March, because a lot of the people who live in Sterling Lake physically may not be there. We wanted to make sure we took the count a little bit later in the spring to make sure we got good numbers. I think we got there. So signal, not an option. Stop signs, four-way, not an option. We looked at a roundabout configuration and tried to simulate what that would look like. It actually does increase the accident rate there as well. And roundabouts generally are very safe because it's a low-speed situation. But part of the problem is now you're taking a very, very large volume that runs back and forth on Brainerd Road and forcing all of those cars to do the roundabout movement, which over thousands of cars per day is going to increase the number of accidents. So, I mean, it is, the roundabout has other issues with the footprint of it too, because it's not just pavement that it takes, and it does take up a pretty significant chunk of pavement, but there's pretty substantial landscaping and walls and even maybe some private property that would need to be incorporated into a roundabout design to actually fit a roundabout. So from a cost standpoint, to build something like that, and also you're actually increasing the accident rate. We didn't make the roundabout as a viable option. We do make two suggestions that could help. One would be to work with the HOA on their pedestrian access. Right now, you know, it's primarily an internal walking situation. We do have a trail or sidewalk that kind of goes up to the front driveway, but that sidewalk ends there. We have a handicap access ramp that ends, and it doesn't really go to anywhere specific. The pedestrians from either North Point or from Sterling Lakes, right now, I think they take their internal sidewalk, they go out into the street, and then they have to go around the gate basically to get out to Brainerd. So, you know, if we were going to do something more defined, more visible, and make drivers more present as they pull up to an intersection, as far as crosswalk or maybe some advanced warning type stuff, we really have to look at how the pedestrian would get to the crosswalk from the two ends of the block. now. And it's something that could be done, and I think that would actually maybe make people a little bit more aware of the intersection and also enhance pedestrian safety.
And that might be the pedestrian safety is a nice aspect of it, but making drivers more aware that they're coming to this intersection maybe is equal benefit for drivers approaching.
So I have a question about that. Would that be paid for by the city? Because when the school board needed a crosswalk to the library to protect the kids who were crossing the road, the school board was forced to foot the entire bill. And I wouldn't want that to happen if we were advocating for it. The school board had to pay for the engineering and the implementation of the crosswalk at the library. This was a number of years ago, but I just wouldn't want that to happen. And my only other concern is, I think it's great to improve pedestrian access, but I don't know that that's, and maybe it would also help the traffic issue. I understand it might not be severe enough to warrant a light, but is there anything else we could do as far as flashing lights, signage, possibly reducing the speed? Like, just a few yards down the road in Woodmere, the speed drops to 25. I don't want to slow down traffic too much, but, it's a thought, because it is kind of hard to see when, and people, yes, most people are probably going to the speed limit, but, we've all had incidents where someone's going really fast. I was actually passed on Brainerd. I was passed, and there's no passing lane, in case anybody forgot that. So, I just wondering, are there any additional things that we could add? And also, is this something that we would pay for? Because,
Well, let me ask, how many questions? Let's answer the first question here. Paying for it. At the time when the school board did their crosswalk, that was a supplemental crosswalk. They already had one by Gale Allerton Drive crosswalk to get to the library. They chose to, however they rerouted their campus, they picked a new location. They wanted to
I'm pretty aware of all the
So,
whole process
but
and
again, I
how
don't know if that's
frustrating it
really
was done.
Yeah, it's
So-
not an apples to apples thing. But,
Yeah,
and I don't
it's
know that
pretty
it would
similar.
necessarily be that elaborate of a crosswalk with the push button and the big lights and all that stuff. It could just be something similar to what we have out here. Certainly, we have some advanced warning allowing motorists to know that there is a crosswalk and have some flashing lights. Currently, there are signs that indicate that there's a curve and a recommended speed of 25, and I believe those are illuminated with flashing as well. So I think we do a good job of letting motorists that aren't familiar with the area that, hey, there's a curve coming up, we need to slow down, there's an intersection ahead. All of those things are out there right now.
So there's signage that says the
Yes.
driveway is hidden or hard to see or something?
There's a couple of different signs, and there's one that actually flashes. So, and those, you could add more signage. I don't know if you're gonna have a huge amount of additional success. I would say 95% of the people are familiar with the area and they drive there. Trying to maybe inform some of these.
Yeah, at certain times it is hard. I have several friends who live there, and it's hard to, the cars keep coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, if the speed is the other question that you had. The Woodmere, that's a commercial district, and that actually, there's a separate warranting process to drop the speed limit to 25. We're obligated to have it at 35 based on its classifications. We would need to get a variance essentially. There's another term for it, it eludes me right now, but it won't get it. It just doesn't apply. It's just basically we're trying to control the speed in the residential area because we want to. The roadway geometry, while some people are a little uncomfortable with it, the layout does meet the speed.
Wouldn't it get sense because it's dense?
It's in the commercial area, yeah. If you go down Mayfield Road is 25, for instance, that is their commercial zone, so different zone.
As opposed to residential, so
Yeah.
commercial gets, that surprises me.
Well, there's a curb cut every 20 feet, it's all.
Yeah, okay.
Don, I'm wondering, this isn't a commercial district, but on, I think it's Woodley on Sun Center. There's a flashing yellow light, and I think there are signs that reduce the speed.
Woodley does not have a speed reduction. I believe it's just a warning to let people know that there's an intersection
With the hill.
because of the hill. Just a limited sight distance, making drivers aware. I think it's 40 on the north. Is it 40 over there?
Does it reduce speed?
No, a yellow caution sign can suggest a slower speed, but it's not the speed the actual road is.
It's, you mean the yellow flashing light?
Or even if a sign says, recommend that you go 25.
Yeah.
It's a recommendation, but the actual speed limit is the white post.
We have that 25 mile an hour sign.
I have a question. Is there any way
I'm
to,
sorry.
On break,
is there any way to time the lights on each side of the intersection to delay cars going to that way and from, is there like a way, like a 5-second delay and sync them on both sides of South Woodland and where it's coming in to give it like a 10-second delay to let people have some time to get out of the subdivision?
Yeah, you're unfortunately, I think you're too far away to sort of simulate that. Signals have to be pretty close, because if you think about it, you're traveling over a mile, somebody going a few miles an hour slower or faster, you're not gonna be able, if you put a 20-second delay or some pretty substantial delay on the southbound traffic, and there's a truck that's going 30 miles an hour instead of 35.
But because it's a three-way stop like right before, or three-way traffic right there,
Yes,
And if you delay that, and you delay the people coming on South Woodland by just a little bit, it'll give time for people to get out.
I think the signal that is at the east-west Brainerd intersection right now does provide those gaps currently. There are pretty good gaps when the signal flips over from, left-hand turns to the other hand. And if you think about somebody, basically when the signal allows for the west Brainerd traffic to make lefts, it takes a while for somebody to queue up and for that to go. So there is a gap ahead.
and there's I don't know that east-west Brainerd light is directly tied in, but there's significant coordination of the signaling on Chagrin Boulevard. And it sort of fits into that pattern.
Yeah, actually, that whole corridor is controlled and monitored by Beechwood, because they're trying to get traffic across the freeway bridge and the 2 freeway entrances, and they monitor for Woodmere essentially.
And 2 other suggestions. One, can they have a big yellow flashing light up top like they do on Fairmount? For some of the hidden driveways? Or,
I think we found that those are not very effective. Maybe initially, people recognize that they're there, and over time, I mean, some of those flashing lights have been there so long that people don't even know they're there. I think we actually have had better luck with the diamond shaped high LED, because they're more at ground level, especially at night, bad weather, to see those, the flashing red light or yellow light up above, it doesn't do so.
and then what if at like the high times when people are going to work or coming home from work, could you have just a temporary light that works? Would that?
It doesn't work like that. That actually creates way more accidents, because people, is the light on, is it not on? You have to be consistent. Somebody comes through there at a different time and it's like, why is this light here? And all of a sudden,
So the lights, I think, work differently, like on Schaefer, for example, in the morning, they seem to be on a different schedule, like if you're going downtown in the morning, for example.
right,
The lights are quite different than like midday.
right. The cues are different. Acknowledging the traffic in the morning, certain different times of the day are heavy eastbound or westbound, and then the default, like middle of the evening or whatever, is a much more, basically pull up when the light changes.
So is that an option for us at all to?
You're- Like putting a light at that corner at the intersection?
No, not at the entrance intersection, but to have our lights function differently at busy times.
We already do.
They do?
They do.
So are they slowing the traffic or
They're
pacing
managing
the
traffic. You gotta remember, when you slow traffic, you're stopping somebody waiting to get through a light. So what you're doing is you're increasing the queue length. So then when you do finally give them the green light, now instead of 7 people, you've got 12 people waiting. So
Sure, just that
it's
safety.
a trade-off.
Yeah, safety is obviously the priority.
So, to bring it back, again, and I'm not familiar with how engaged the HOA has involved the residents of the community. I look forward to hearing back from the HOA that we've exchanged our information with. We would be very happy to pursue this crosswalk idea as to, and hopefully some benefits that may be attached to that. I think we have, I know in 2016, in the conversations that we had at that time with the community there, there were some modifications to the landscaping made. It's an ongoing problem. If you're not familiar, I hope everyone is, as to why this intersection is basically a T instead of a broader sweep in. It's because, and I don't know if I'm not trying to cast blame, I'm trying to explain. The developer of the community wanted that configuration. It was legal. Mr. Shi could design it the way it was being requested. It was a private community, so how they wanted their street to intersect in. And it was accommodated. And that's how it ends up being what it is, at the request of the original developer. None of you were part of those development decisions, I understand that. But that's how it ended up where it is. We want to continue to work with the community effectively as to, are there, it was in 16 that I'm currently familiar that I know there was some cutback of landscaping then. It's 9 years of additional tree growth, shrub growth. I don't know if there's something that,
I think they've been pretty.
have they kept up with it pretty much?
Yeah. I mean,
All right, so there may not be anything in the way of landscaping accommodation that needs to be made, but we want to work with the community to make it as good as it can be. And right now, given the engineering study, and in the future, we'll continue to, at some appropriate period, check the traffic again and see if it ever comes to qualify or warrant, under the legal term, installation of any other control. Right now, the professional evaluation is it's going to create a situation where there has not been, thank God, a significant or any accident since, you know, the going towards 2 decades of this thing, of this being there. No one wants to create a situation where now we see accidents. We have 4-way stops, and we have accidents there. There are accidents that occur at Shaker Landing, South Woodland Landing. That's where we see traffic accidents happening quite often. When we look at all of our different streets, that's the point of contact. So if we can avoid that situation and not create it at Sterling Lakes, it's better. I know the community.
Can we speak?
Sensitive.
Do we want us to wait until?
Yeah, you know
until
what?
the comments are
Typically,
done?
we don't have
Right.
back and forth
You want
here,
us to wait?
but I'm going to give us 3 minutes because I think council does want to hear a little bit. So why don't we just take 3 minutes, and if you keep your comments brief, I am going to allow, since so many of you are here, to comment. Yeah. Please state your name. for the
My
record.
name is Cheryl Stern. I live at 4900 Glengarry Lane. I am a member of the Sterling Lakes HOA board, the main board. Thank you, Mayor Bain, for completing the traffic study and for on our entrance to Sterling Lakes Drive. Thank you, councilmen and women, for listening to our concerns. We have had a number of complaints from residents at each of our subdivision meetings over the years, from residents explaining how dangerous they feel this intersection is. None of these complaints have been addressed in public like this by the city until this summer. We are concerned for the safety of the entire Pepper Point community. Many people pass this intersection on their way to Trader Joe's and shopping at Union. The letter from Mayor Bain with the study, unfortunately, was only sent to 3 of the HOA board members. And we received it in August after our last meeting. The board has not had time to review this traffic study in detail. I received a notice from a council member about the agenda tonight, and that the intersection would be discussed in the meeting. Our next meeting is tomorrow night, and we will discuss it then, and we will be in contact with you at that time concerning the situation. I'm not sure what the comments were about social media. We've discussed it in all of our, not online, at our meetings in person. We understand about the developer. We just want to point out that the city, it was legal to do what they did, and the city also agreed, well, we'll do what you want, but the city didn't have any objection. The trees have been cut back. We've done as much as we can with that. I think we definitely want to consider the sidewalk and perhaps some other signage or flashing lights. We do have members here right now who are past presidents of the HOA who have met with you, Mayor Bain, about this in the past, and other members who were present when the 2016 traffic study was done. So I'm going to defer to Mr.
Okay, my name is Andrew Cartalis, Kartalis. I'm a retired civil engineer. I was also a licensed engineer and been involved in this study from the beginning. I got to start off by saying professionally, I disagree completely with the results of the CBE study. In other words, which is to do nothing. We have to do something. There are over 500 families living around that one intersection, 500. And so it merits some expenditures of monies. I mean, it's not even on a list to be done in the future. And we disagree with the results of the study made by CBE, which says do nothing with some minor things. We had a study done, an in-depth study, 9 years ago, October 2016. And the minute we got copies of this with Debbie Garson, who's our president today, we hand carried a copy of it to his honor into Don Seeley. And the first thing, just to point a couple of things in, the first thing it talks about is the traffic problem. And that's 9 years ago, so today you know it's worse. And it says vehicular speeds were recorded in 51,000 vehicles over a 7-day period, westbound direction along Brainerd Road. It was determined that 85th percentile was 35 miles per hour. The data indicated that 50% of vehicles exceeded 35 miles an hour traveling in the westbound direction. Going the other way, they recorded that over 39% were speeding above the 35 miles an hour. And then it concluded, after going through this laborious process, that based on the results of the analysis, it is our opinion that the preferred design alternative for the intersection of Brainerd Road and Sterling Drive is to reconstruct the intersection as a roundabout. The installation of a roundabout at the intersection would be a high-cost improvement that may impact the existing right-of-way of the intersection. Actually, the
Mr. Cornelis, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I guess I am interrupting.
so anyway,
This is not the form for
okay,
that sort of description, but I
so
appreciate.
we
the
just don't
comment.
want to leave it die.
I understand.
I'm elder Gavin, I'm Muirfield and Sterling Lakes. Member one of the sub-associations, HOAs, I have one thing to address towards Dan, Don. Roundabouts, flashing lights, traffic lights, all at an expense. The signs are there now, the flashing lights are there now. I'm not sure they really do much good, although we like to think so. I think a simple solution, very inexpensive, is putting in either road tables or speed bumps. It automatically slows traffic down. It's very simple. Any thoughts?
On a,
Just state road.
let's say it's actually a county route, and the design is a collector route. So the design is to carry traffic at a speed of 35 miles an hour. To install speed tables typically is done, in dense urban areas where they're trying to really restrict speeding because you have, close driveways, houses, right on top of each other. It's a totally different setup. I think trying to put a speed table in or some type of a speed bump would actually create a tremendous amount of accidents, because if somebody did drive it at the wrong speed, not paying attention, or maybe just doing whatever, and they went through it at 35 miles an hour, they would probably lose control of the vehicle. So I don't know that it's really a.
They wouldn't do it again.
Well, yes, but that's not really how you design stuff. You have an obligation to the through traffic too. They're part of it. They realize residents want to pull out when they want to pull out, and some requires some time to wait and making sure that you've got clearance. But really, the numbers are there. You don't have accidents being created. Now, whether or not people feel good about it, like, hey, I wish there was a little bit more time, I get it. When this original design, we went back through that discussion. The original design that I put in had the road a lot straighter. And we did not know exactly where Sterling Lakes Drive was going to be. But this was the design that the developer put together to maximize the number of units they could get on the north end, and it met the minimum design criteria. Minimum, but met. And that's where we're at. That's why the minimum doesn't feel like it, because they met the design, couldn't really prohibit them from going to that place. But it did meet the design for that speed. Speed tables and those types of things, speed bumps, it's not really, basically one just put road closed signs and tell everybody use a different route. It's kind of what we're trying to do.
Okay,
This is the last comment.
Okay, isn't there any way that you could acknowledge the near misses? Back in the day, when my husband was living, when there was a passenger, one of us would look in one direction, one looked in the other, and we could go. Well, now my husband passed away, it's just me. The near misses, I have to gun the gas pedal to get out of there in the morning. It is frightening. So I guess I'm appealing to you on an emotional basis, and you're saying, can't do anything with emotions.
Well, the near miss situation, really, unfortunately, it exists at every intersection. Intersections like Lander and Shaker, we have probably a dozen or more pretty serious accidents there every year. I'm sure there are near misses 10 times the number of near misses on the road. I don't know. And that's a four-way stop.
But Don, the difference is at Lander and Shaker, and I live right there, right? The people are usually, the accidents, it's very visible. It's people who usually blow through the stop sign. I've seen it on a couple of occasions, right?
I got T-boned there this year, so I wasn't blowing the stop sign,
What? Oh.
I didn't run the stop sign and I got hit, right?
They
So,
probably,
yeah.
they might have run the stop
Yeah.
sign. Yeah, you don't have to be the person, it could be the other person,
Right.
that's the whole point. right? You can be doing everything right. The difference here, and I just want to make sure we're proactive instead of reactive. I think that's what the residents are saying, that we don't want to wait for something to happen. You know, I have a pretty quick car, so I can kind of, you know, get out of somewhere like that and, you know, get on the road. But if you don't have as quick of a car, if it's a little slower, or maybe, you know, the visibility isn't great. And, you know, I'm assuming the landscape piece was probably our requirement, which I applaud, because we always are telling people to put in trees and landscaping and all that. You know, that's the aesthetic we prefer. So I'm assuming that was kind of on, that part of it at least was probably on us. At least a large part of it. I mean, they were doing a nice development too, so I'm sure they wanted to put that in. But, and thankfully, it sounds like that's not the problem. I just want to make sure we're doing what we can now and not waiting for something to happen.
That's what we would like.
All right, so we look forward to continuing our conversation with the HOA and having that conversation. So thank you for being here. We are going to move on to committees and department heads. Mr. Lemay, you have a finance committee meeting tonight.
Yes, we have a finance committee at 7:00 this evening, and pleased to report that revenues for the city are up over budget. The property was reassessed this year, and rising property values, so we're about 113% of budget on property taxes. Income taxes are tracking, so on the revenue front, we're a little bit ahead of budget, a little bit ahead of last year. Expenses have been aligned and no outliers from a budget to expense standpoint. We talked a little bit about capital projects, and Peter has much better organized the capital projects and made the expenses by each project, so it'll be much easier for council to track ongoing expenses relative to budget for those projects. Something that was not done in the past. It's a real benefit for all of us, so thanks to Peter for that. And that's all I have.
Okay.
I would like to make one comment, though. I like the benchmark column. I think that's very helpful. The old column gave us a comparison that wasn't valid at all, and this is very helpful. And I don't know who's responsible for that, if that's Peter or.
That's Peter.
Peter, thank you very
There's
much.
the Peter Reckentor, Finance Director Extraordinaire.
And I really appreciate the capital projects. I think that way we understand what we've done in incorporating the full project instead of piecemeal kind of trying to remember and see it together. I mean, it's the way it should be, but I really appreciate, I know there's been a lot on your plate since you've come here, so thank you.
Do we have any more committees? I'm sorry, were you done?
I'm done.
Okay. I don't think we have any more committees. Department heads? Anything? I know our two young officers who you hired are proceeding through the academy.
Yes.
And looking forward to them coming online.
That's great.
How's
Both
our projects?
both sidewalk projects are moving along really well. Southwood.
We have trail projects. I'm sorry.
Trail projects are moving along well. South Woodland is nearly complete. They're doing restoration. There's a couple little things. There's a hydrant that still didn't get moved, but
Is that the last one that was time removed because it's right in the middle of the sidewalk?
yeah,
The middle of where the sidewalk should
it
be.
was supposed to be moved. There's been a delay, but it's
Was the water department?
Cleveland Water has to shut it off and the contractor does it. But everything else has gone really well on that one. Lander's making good progress. It's interesting, the farmhouse in the corner. Sorry, Shaker towards Lander, yeah. The farmhouse on the corner here by Bolingbrook, he asked to move his driveway, which is actually a big plus. His driveway was on Shaker, so we moved it over to Bolingbrook. And so we put the new apron that we were gonna put for him on Shaker, we put it on Bolingbrook.
That's great.
Oh, he had good timing.
It was a great solution, and I think it cleaned it up, so it's nice, and it pulls another driveway close to the Bolingbrook intersection away.
Nice cut.
We're gonna start paving Fairmount, probably next week.
All of Fairmount?
Fairmount from Som to, Brainerd, on on the north, in North Woodland.
There's wasted.
Don, is the sewer project for the western part of South Woodland slated for next year? Like, how
It's,
certain are you with timing of that? Just because now that the sidewalks or walkways are in, people are like, well, what about us?
Right,
Yeah,
right. We have, the Belgrave sewer is ahead of that.
okay.
And the southwest quadrant that we're calling,
Yeah.
which is South Woodland, that is probably gonna get 27 construction. So we would likely bake the sidewalk project.
Oh, okay, so they would happen like kind of
We
simultaneously?
could have it as part of the restoration.
Yeah, oh, that's great, okay.
I have a question for you, Don. Can we do both projects, both sewer projects in a year, or is it just too
There's-
much and the
there's
traffic would be a disaster?
No, you could do it theoretically. I think there's gonna be some lag time. There's a big pump station that has to get built as part of the South Woodland project. And there's a pretty long lead time, so I don't wanna build the sewer and then wait a year for the pump station.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I get that. All right, good.
Don, I was gonna ask, because you brought up Belgrade sewers, I did have a resident reach out to me to ask like the status of that project, where it's at and when, could we just
Right, we're
revisit
in the
that?
design phase right now, and we need to get approval from EPA. We're gonna be submitting stuff to them shortly, and also Cuyahoga County reviews ours because they maintain our sanitary sewer system. So those are in the coming couple of months. We should be putting together, once we have their approval, we can give council the estimate, and we can go through the assessment process.
So likely 2020,
Early 26.
okay, thank you.
Any audience comments, or else we'll adjourn for the.
Yes, Richard Ferguson.
Why is my comments
Council, I think you have council.
in council?
Where do you want to go in?
We have our
Harvest Festival.
Harvest Fest coming up October 5th. It's a great event. If any of you have not attended it, I encourage you to do so. Earlier in the day, there will be a bike ride that I will lead. You're all encouraged to get out your 10-speed Schwinn's and go for a ride. And as far or as short as anyone wants to participate, they are very invited to be part of the event. We have wonderful children festivities starting at 3 o'clock that afternoon with face painters, petting zoo, lots of fun things for the children. And the Harvest Fest dinner is that night. I think the reservations for that to buy tickets are actually over because I think Rachel had to send in the numbers for the vendor. Someone's, well, I guess that's closed. So anyway, that's really all I have for this evening. Council, you have any comments?
I have one comment. For the, I'm glad the city is a great financial status. I'm very happy about that. Have we thought about maybe adding residents to the finance committee like we have for road infrastructure and?
We have not, I'm open to that. I think once we do this, and we're gonna do a search for residents for the once-a-year meeting of the
Right.
investment advisory committee, I'm open to thinking about that. Let's see what we get, and maybe there's someone who would add value to that. Because I see this as the, like all year long, the finance committee is gonna continue to meet with Fifth Third and evaluate their performance. And the advisory committee is kind of the year in, so it's really different functions, but I'm open to that, so.
Anyone else? Audience?
Yes, Richard Ferguson, 29200 Isdale Road. First, I'd like to acknowledge and thank you, and I look forward to contributing to the road and infrastructure committee. Secondly, the traffic study, did you also look at Old Brainerd to Woodland? I mean, there's 500 residents in Sterling Lakes. How many go out that other way?
We've not done a traffic study that I know of.
We haven't taken a current count over there.
No, we have not.
Because that would be a
That's an
relief valve.
interesting- It's always an interesting point, and obviously, it's an alternative entrance exit to the development. Yes, thank you, sir.
Real simple.
South Woodland and Brainerd, New Brainerd, when you're on New Brainerd,
Yes, where the light is.
there are left turn lanes going both north and south, which is very convenient. Problem is between 8 and 9 in the morning, it's almost impossible when you're heading north of Brainerd to turn left, because there is so much traffic in the other way. Is there any way they could put in turning arrows, traffic?
It's an interesting question. I'll refer that to the police and the engineer to take a look at it. Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Barb?
Grace Barber, 33,000 Shaker Boulevard, in regards to his suggestion of going out to the Old Brainerd. What about opening up Old Brainerd at that light that goes towards Village and having people be able to access that and then go out and use the light to go either left or right? And then secondly, thank you Kathy and Councilman Rainier for moving 88 ahead and looking forward to when those plans will be given to us. Do you have any kind of timeline? Can you set a timeline so it doesn't fall by the wayside?
I don't, since the conversation happened about an hour and a half ago, no, I don't have a timeline.
Well, I mean, an expectation.
We'll move it as expeditiously as we can create a solicitation and get it out and get responses. So no, I can't really give you a number. I'd be making it up. I don't want to do that. Anyone else? Yes.
Vera Bar Savage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. I just want to update on, maybe Jim can tell me since Scott isn't here, about the Phragmites. I was supposed to get information about the herbicide being used and I haven't received it.
I'm sorry, Scott was going to get in touch with you about that. If he didn't, I apologize. I will follow up with him about that.
Because I think it's important that they're spraying already.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Yes, in the corner.
Tamara Rennick, 31350 South Woodland. Just two comments. With regard to the disability, accessibility, it's important to keep in mind that even if you're checking the boxes for compliance, if there are some serious issues with the elevator there. Just even tonight when Sheila was helping me, it did not work, and Jim had to intervene. In the wintertime, it's not weatherproof, and so in the rain, etc. So, you know, and the parking spaces, thank you for bringing that up, because if someone has a mobility issue and they're parking down there, was frankly wanting to go, like, you know, mentioned, that's like the equivalent of when you crawl from over there. You don't realize the difficulty that's involved in getting from point A to point B. So, thank you, please do make that a priority. It doesn't need to go on for another 2 years. I know this has been, Grace has been asking for some kind of improvement for quite some time. And looking at it just from the improving that part of it is important. Don't worry
Okay,
about
thank you
it.
for your observation.
Secondly, one little point. For the childish vandalism that's going on with regards to those political signs. Personally, I have placed signs on my property endorsing Councilwoman Zajac, Councilman Welkman, I'm sorry, and, Wayne. They just went up because the signs were allowed at a certain date. Friday night, vandalized. Signs torn out, thrown on my lawn. Put them back. Sunday night, signs torn out, thrown all over. Sergeant Kruger was kind enough to help me put them back. Monday night, same thing. That's gotta stop. Everyone has a right to endorse who they want. Be polite, be dignified. And spread the word that that's just not acceptable.
I absolutely agree with it. Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone
Can I
else?
make a comment about that?
I'm sorry, what?
Can I just make a comment about her comment?
Sure.
You know, we all live in Pepper Pike, we know it's the best community, and we all know it. This is not emblematic of our great community, and those signs are supposed to stand for positivity and some really great accomplishments that we have achieved together over the past 4 years, and that's what I hope that the election is gonna be about, so whoever's doing that, just please stop, let's just stay positive. We all wanna be neighborly, and we know that Pepper Pike is better than that.
All right, thank you. You
We're working on something, I think, really interesting, a combination of.
So like in our.
Yeah.
Yeah.